My beloved brothers and sisters, every one of us goes through moments of fear, uncertainty, and vulnerability in life. Every human being faces moments of uncertainty, fear, and vulnerability. We encounter situations where our own strength feels insufficient, where the support of others seems unreliable, and where wealth or influence cannot provide the protection we desperately need. In such moments, it becomes clear that true guardianship cannot be found in the material world or in human hands. This is where the reality of Allah being the ultimate guardian comes into full perspective. Allah is not like any protector we know. He is the creator of the heavens and the earth, the one who sustains all existence, and the one who watches over every detail of our lives. When we recognize Him as our guardian, we tap into a source of protection and care that is limitless, constant, and perfect. Unlike human allies, Allah does not sleep, does not forget, and is never distracted. Unlike wealth or possessions, His protection cannot be depleted, stolen, or lost. Unlike power and influence, His authority is absolute, unchallenged, and eternal. Understanding this truth is transformative for the believer, for it redefines the concept of security and safety. When a person realizes that Allah is enough as their guardian, the need for fear diminishes, and the heart begins to experience a level of peace and confidence that cannot be shaken by worldly events. This realization does not mean one stops taking precautions or fulfilling responsibilities. Rather, it instills a balanced approach in life, where effort is combined with complete trust in divine protection. One begins to act wisely while understanding that the outcomes of their actions are ultimately in Allah's hands. The Quran emphasizes this concept when it says, "And sufficient is Allah as disposer of affairs." This verse is not merely a statement of faith, it is a profound reminder that the affairs of every believer, their trials, their challenges, and even their victories, are managed by the one who knows them best. In recognizing Allah as the ultimate guardian, a person also develops a unique sense of resilience. Obstacles that once seemed insurmountable are now viewed through the lens of divine oversight. Threats that once inspired fear are now met with courage, because the believer knows that no harm can occur without Allah's permission. This understanding allows one to navigate life with a sense of security and confidence that is unmatched by any worldly means. Furthermore, believing in Allah's guardianship nurtures humility and reliance upon Him. It removes arrogance and self-sufficiency, replacing it with gratitude, patience, and reliance on divine wisdom. The heart becomes anchored in the knowledge that regardless of circumstances, Allah is watching, guiding, and protecting. This also fosters a sense of contentment as one understands that the trials they face are under the control of the most capable guardian and that there is a divine purpose behind every challenge. In essence, recognizing Allah as the ultimate guardian is not just about protection from harm, it is about having a foundation of trust, confidence, and peace in every aspect of life. It transforms fear into faith, uncertainty into trust, and weakness into spiritual strength. When one truly internalizes this reality, life becomes more meaningful, challenges become bearable, and the heart finds solace in knowing that no matter what happens, Allah is enough, and He is the ultimate guardian who never fails, never abandons, and never leaves a believer unprotected. Allah's guardianship extends far beyond what the human eye can see or what the mind can comprehend. Often we think of protection in terms of visible barriers, human intervention, or material security, but Allah's protection is not limited by these things. It works in subtle, unseen ways that safeguard us from harm before we even realize the danger exists. This form of protection demonstrates that relying on Allah as our guardian is not only about facing known challenges with trust, but also about being shielded from what is unknown and unseen. Many times in life we are unaware of the calamities, misfortunes, or negative circumstances that we have been spared. These are blessings of Allah's guardianship which protect our physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being. For instance, we may plan to enter a certain situation or associate with certain people, yet something prevents us from doing so. Later we might realize that had we not been guided away from that situation, harm or distress could have come our way. These are clear examples of Allah's unseen protection, which works in perfect wisdom and timing. Believing in Allah as our guardian helps us develop awareness and gratitude for these divine interventions, even when they are not immediately obvious. Moreover, Allah's protection is not only about preventing harm, it is also about guiding us toward what is beneficial and away from what is detrimental. Life is full of choices, and not every path we take will lead to success, peace, or happiness. When we acknowledge Allah as our guardian, we understand that He can redirect us, sometimes gently and sometimes through circumstances, toward what is ultimately best for us. This guidance is a manifestation of His guardianship, showing that protection is not merely defensive but also proactive, shaping our lives in accordance with divine wisdom. Furthermore, Allah's unseen protection also strengthens the believer's faith. When we experience outcomes that we could not have predicted or understand how we were spared from danger, our hearts recognize that there is a higher power at work. This awareness encourages reliance, trust, and humility, as we come to realize that human efforts alone are insufficient to control life's uncertainties. The protection of Allah is not constrained by time, space, or physical limitation. No matter where we are or what circumstances we face, Allah's guardianship encompasses every aspect of our lives. He watches over our homes, our travels, our relationships, and our inner thought. This comprehensive guardianship reassures the believer that even in moments of solitude, vulnerability, or confusion, Allah is fully aware and fully capable of providing protection. The concept of unseen protection also teaches patience and perseverance. Often a believer may encounter difficulties or obstacles, but these should not be seen as a lack of guardianship. Sometimes what appears as hardship is a form of divine preparation, a way for the believer to grow spiritually, develop resilience, or gain wisdom. Allah's protection, therefore, is not only about avoiding harm but also about nurturing and strengthening the believer through life's experiences. In this way, the unseen guardianship of Allah brings both safety and spiritual growth. Ultimately, understanding that Allah protects in ways beyond our perception brings immense peace of mind. We begin to live without constant fear of what may happen, knowing that everything occurs under the watchful care of the most merciful, the most wise, and the most powerful. It allows the believer to trust the unseen, rely on divine wisdom, and walk through life with confidence, knowing that no danger, trial, or adversity can reach them without Allah's permission, and that His guardianship is constant, comprehensive, and perfectly timed in every situation.
When a person truly understands that Allah is enough as their guardian, a remarkable transformation occurs in the heart and mind. Fear, anxiety, and worry begin to fade, replaced by a profound sense of inner peace and confidence. Life is full of uncertainty, and challenges can appear suddenly, yet the believer who places their trust in Allah experiences a calmness that is not dependent on external circumstances. This is because the heart is anchored in the knowledge that the ultimate protector, the one who controls the heavens and the earth, is always watching over them. When the mind is consumed with fear of the unknown, the heart can become restless, and the soul can be weighed down by worry. Reliance on Allah alleviates this burden. It allows the believer to face difficulties with a steady heart and a clear mind. Knowing that Allah's guardianship encompasses every aspect of life, both seen and unseen, provides reassurance that nothing can harm without His permission. This trust transforms how a person interacts with the world. Instead of being paralyzed by fear of failure, criticism, or loss, the believer moves forward with confidence and courage. There is no arrogance in this reliance, but a humble recognition that human strength alone is limited, and that true security and success come from Allah. The inner peace that results from recognizing Allah as the ultimate guardian also impacts relationships and social interaction. A person who trusts in divine protection is less likely to be envious, jealous, or overly concerned with the opinions and actions of others. They do not constantly compare themselves to those around them, nor do they live in fear of betrayal or harm from people. Their focus shifts to living in accordance with righteousness, seeking Allah's pleasure, and fulfilling responsibilities with sincerity, knowing that outcomes are in His hands. Furthermore, this awareness fosters emotional resilience. Life is unpredictable, and disappointments are inevitable. Yet the believer who understands that Allah is enough as their guardian is better equipped to handle setbacks. They do not despair when plans fail or when obstacles arise, because they trust that Allah's wisdom is greater than human understanding. They recognize that what may appear as misfortune could be protection from something worse, or a means to greater growth and blessings. The heart of such a believer is fortified by patience and gratitude. In moments of difficulty, they are able to reflect, supplicate, and seek help from Allah, rather than succumbing to despair. In moments of ease, they remain humble and grateful, knowing that protection and blessings are from Allah alone. This perspective cultivates a consistent sense of balance, preventing extremes of worry or complacency. The tranquility that comes from reliance on Allah also extends to decision-making. A person who is confident in Allah's guardianship approaches choices with wisdom and deliberation, while maintaining trust in the outcome. They understand that effort and preparation are necessary, but the final result is ultimately determined by Allah. This balance of effort and trust provides a sense of control over one's actions, while simultaneously releasing anxiety over factors beyond human control. Ultimately, when the believer internalizes that Allah is enough as their guardian, life becomes a journey of trust, courage, and serenity. The storms of the world no longer dictate emotional state, and the heart is shielded from excessive fear and despair. There is freedom in surrender and strength in knowing that the most powerful, most merciful, and most wise is always watching, protecting, and guiding. This profound reliance allows the believer to face every challenge, uncertainty, and trial with unwavering faith, deep peace, and confident hope in Allah's perfect guardianship.
The lives of the prophets and the righteous throughout history offer powerful lessons about the importance of relying on Allah as the ultimate guardian. Their experiences demonstrate that human strength, resources, and influence alone are insufficient to ensure safety, success, or guidance. From the challenges they faced, we learn that the protection of Allah surpasses all worldly means and that true security lies in placing complete trust in Him. Consider the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam, who faced the ultimate test when he was thrown into the blazing fire by those who opposed him. Despite the intensity of the danger, he remained firm in his faith, knowing that Allah was his guardian. The fire which should have consumed him became harmless, and he emerged safe. This historical example illustrates that when Allah protects, no harm can reach those under His guardianship, regardless of the magnitude of the threat. Similarly, the story of Musa alayhi salam and the Israelites at the Red Sea highlights the miraculous nature of divine guardianship. Surrounded by enemies with no apparent means of escape, the believers were faced with an impossible situation. Yet when they placed their trust in Allah and followed His guidance, the sea parted, creating a safe passage and ensuring their survival. This event emphasizes that no matter how overwhelming or insurmountable a challenge may seem, Allah's protection is sufficient to overcome it. The life of Prophet Muhammad also provides numerous examples of Allah's guardianship. During the Hijrah, when he and his companion Abu Bakr radiyallahu anhu hid in the cave while being pursued by enemies, the Quran tells us that the enemy did not see them or even suspect their presence. This divine protection allowed them to escape danger unharmed. Such events remind believers that Allah's guardianship is not limited by space or human perception. It transcends all barriers and ensures the safety of those who rely on Him. The lives of other righteous individuals also demonstrate that trials and hardships are not signs of abandonment, but opportunities to experience Allah's protection in various forms. While prophets and saints faced opposition, persecution, and immense difficulty, they were guided, safeguarded, and ultimately victorious because Allah was their guardian. These stories are not just historical accounts, they are timeless lessons that apply to every believer. They teach us that worldly power, wealth, or armies are not substitutes for divine guardianship. The real source of protection, strength, and success is Allah alone. When we study the examples of these extraordinary individuals, we understand that trusting Allah as our guardian requires faith, patience, and perseverance. It requires surrendering our fears and anxieties to Him, and believing that He is fully capable of protecting us from every harm, visible or unseen. Furthermore, reflecting on the experiences of the prophets encourages believers to maintain hope during difficulty. Life is filled with challenges, and it is easy to feel overwhelmed or helpless at times. However, when we remember the extraordinary ways in which Allah protected the prophets and righteous individuals, we gain the confidence to face our own trials with courage and faith. We learn that no matter how dire a situation appears, reliance on Allah ensures guidance, safety, and ultimately, victory. These lessons strengthen the heart, build resilience, and nurture unwavering trust in Allah's wisdom and protection. Understanding the lives of the prophets in this way allows every believer to internalize the reality that when Allah is your guardian, no human threat, no worldly challenge, and no difficulty can overpower you. His guardianship is complete, perfect, and sufficient in every circumstance.
Understanding that Allah is enough as our guardian does not mean that life will be free from difficulties, trials, or challenges. Life, by its very nature, presents tests that are designed to develop patience, resilience, and spiritual growth. Recognizing Allah as our guardian allows us to face these challenges with courage, knowing that even when we experience hardship, we are never truly alone. Every trial we encounter carries within it an opportunity for growth and a reminder of Allah's presence and protection. When we struggle through difficult circumstances, it is not necessarily a sign of neglect or absence of divine care. On the contrary, it can be a demonstration of Allah's guardianship in its most profound form. Sometimes the protection He provides is not in the form of removing hardship entirely, but in equipping us with the strength, wisdom, and patience to endure it with dignity. Believers learn to recognize that obstacles are temporary and that every challenge comes with the potential for spiritual and moral development. This perspective transforms hardship into a source of empowerment rather than despair. When we are faced with trials, we begin to understand that relying on Allah as our guardian is not just about seeking immediate relief, but about trusting in His greater plan. Difficulties can guide us towards self-awareness, humility, and gratitude. They help us recognize the limitations of human control and the necessity of surrendering our affairs to the One who has perfect knowledge and infinite wisdom. In this way, trials become a means of strengthening faith, refining character, and drawing closer to Allah. Additionally, reliance on Allah during hardships encourages patience and perseverance. When the heart knows that the ultimate guardian is watching, it can endure discomfort without succumbing to despair or fear. This trust allows the believer to maintain hope and confidence, even when circumstances appear bleak. Rather than reacting with anxiety or frustration, the believer learns to respond with reliance on Allah, knowing that He has the power to change situations in ways beyond human comprehension. Recognizing Allah as our guardian also teaches gratitude and mindfulness. Even in the midst of hardship, a believer can reflect on the ways in which Allah has protected them, sustained them, and guided them through previous challenges. This awareness nurtures a sense of appreciation for the blessings that may otherwise be overlooked and strengthens the connection between the believer and their Creator. Furthermore, the realization that Allah is sufficient as a guardian fosters humility and reliance. It reminds us that human effort, while necessary, is limited, and that ultimate success and safety are dependent upon Allah's will. This understanding reduces arrogance, encourages responsible decision-making, and cultivates a heart that trusts divine wisdom above all else. By internalizing this reality, the believer develops resilience, courage, and a sense of peace that is independent of external circumstances. The awareness that Allah's guardianship extends beyond the removal of hardship ensures that trials are not viewed as punishments, but as opportunities for spiritual growth and a means of drawing closer to Him. Ultimately, understanding that reliance on Allah does not exempt one from challenges, but ensures that every challenge is accompanied by His protection and guidance, allows the believer to navigate life with balance, patience, and unwavering faith. It is through this reliance that the believer experiences strength in adversity, calm in uncertainty, and hope in every situation, confident that Allah, the ultimate guardian, is sufficient for all matters of life.